How can we define a dam as perfect and largest? For the largest, we can say that it has the largest holding capacity, but for the perfect part, views and ideas change with the recent Chinese dam. If anybody questions that the Three Gorges Dam on the Yangtze River in China is as much about public notoriety as flood control and hydroelectric power, they ought to visit it. A visit transport will take you 40 kilometers from the coarse stream city of Yichang and through military-designated spots protecting the guest's middle. You get the state-endorsed experience along these lines, carried by electric buggy between vantage focuses exhibiting the amazing designing of the venture, with lumps of the massive development hardware showed like noteworthy antiques. Before we dive deeper, make sure you are subscribed for a regular dose of videos. The manual gladly records the world records set by the dam, a significant number of them negligible to everything except the most energetic, pressure-driven designing fans. The most noteworthy force of substantial position, the spillway dam with the biggest release limit, the inland ship lock with the most elevated all-out waterhead. The book consoles guests that the worries raised by the dam's adversaries, sediment collection, dislodging nearby occupants, environmental harm, loss of old legacy locales, and tremor chances are all close by. That's a sober-minded and rather revolting, if huge, accomplishment of designing is being promoted as a priority vacation destination is really impossible to miss when you consider it. However, at that point, you perceive that water, especially its control, has been at the core of Chinese statecraft for a few centuries. That go on today. The Chinese economy is now giving indications of slowing down after a time of remarkable development, and the absence of water could cause serious worries throughout the following a very long while. Enormous dams could convey a sizable cut of the country's power through hydroelectricity, cutting the requirement for dirtying coal-terminated plants. The Three Gorges Dam has an 18.2 GW of introduced power age limit, multiple times that of the Daya Bay thermal energy plant in Guangdong. More dams are moved toward a considerable lot of China's waterways, including questionably the new, which goes through a UNESCO World Heritage Site in Yunnan prior to passing into Myanmar and Thailand. Then again, China's streams are in a delicate parlous state as contamination, damming, abuse, land recovery, and environmental change consolidate overwhelming everything in the vicinity. Natural debasement is assessed to cost China around 10% of its GDP consistently. As Elizabeth C. Economy writes in her book, The River Runs Black. And water issues have been a flashpoint for the majority of common fights, some of them brutal. Presently, like never before, dealing with the streams has turned into a bellwether of political authenticity. Chinese Premier Li Peng's proclamation when the development of the dam was at least endorsed in 1992 appears to affirm that China views it as a demonstration of political, financial, and mechanical may. The Three Gorges Dam will show the other world that the Chinese public has high yearnings and the ability to effectively fabricate the world's biggest water conservancy and hydroelectric power project. Given the general decrease in energy for enormous dams among the worldwide water, the executive's local area at that point, to some degree due to the natural effects, it appears hard to accept that Li truly envisioned that the world would praise the choice. Yet skill in water the executives are seen as nothing to joke about in China. Pundits who question the monetary, social, and natural expenses of the dam are just seeing a piece of the story. The dam isn't simply an endeavor, some will say imperfect, however in any case genuine, to tackle the issues of the Yangtze and of China's requirement for clean energy. It is likewise a dazzling landmark to the way state building is interwoven with the administration of China's streams. Concrete giant. The measurements are confounding. 185 meters high, very nearly 2 kilometers wide, cast from right around 30 million cubic meters of cement and flooding 30,000 hectares of horticultural land to make a supply of exactly 31,000 square miles. The dam is now a Chinese symbol likened to the country's Great Wall. Be that as it may, at what cost? With the apparatus of the state driving it forward, ideas of specialized blemishes have been ignored with overbearing pompousness. A few pundits say how much held silt will raise Yangtze flood gambles upstream in the Sichuan region. Also, shouldn't something be said about the impacts on nearby biology or the deficiency of locales of inestimable public legacy and the dam's weakness to seismic tremors? Imagine a scenario in which the additional load of water really increments seismic dangers and avalanches nearby. Chinese government consolation that these have been considered neglected to ingrain a lot of certainties. One of the most questionable issues is the extremely durable resettlement of those whose homes were overflowed inside the supplied bowl. The region assigned for the Three Gorges Repository Lake, covering 1,000 square kilometers and extending more than 600 upstream, was home to a few 1.5 million individuals residing in 19 districts and districts, 140 towns, 326 municipalities, and 1,351 towns. All must be migrated. Could those impacted be given sufficient cash to begin another life somewhere else? How might laborer ranchers manage a metropolitan climate? Could the moves add to the area's swarming issue? Furthermore, what might be the mental effect of being constrained off the land on which your family could have abided for ages? The Great Flood poses a potential threat in Chinese folklore, where it was tackled by redesigning a scene. A clergyman named Yu, presently frequently called Da Yu or Yu the Great, was designated by the incredible sovereigns Yao and Shun to cut out new channels that released the floodwaters into the ocean. In remuneration for his endeavors, Yu was made Shun's replacement, and he established a semi-amazing Jia dynasty said to have involved the Yellow River Valley in the 3,000 years BC. This thought that mountains can be moved, populaces moved, and geology reordered to hold on to control of the normal streams has ruled China's way to deal with water-powered design from that point forward. You can see it in the structure of the Grand Canal connecting the Yangtze to the Yellow River, generally during the Sui dynasty in the 7th century AD, or the mammoth undertaking of building barriers for many miles along extraordinary streams to attempt to stem flooding. Sovereigns who permitted extraordinary floods to occur, in truth they were everything except difficult to forestall before 20th century designing advancements, gambled on losing the order of heaven which gave them their entitlement to run the show. The Three Gorges Dam seems okay inside this practice, as does the similarly aggressive South-North Water Transfer Project, which plans to ship water from the sticky Yangtze Valley along channels 1,000 kilometers in length to the watertight northern fields. There could have been no more prominent commendation a ruler could get than to be contrasted with the high-minded Da Yu. At the point when President Jiang Zemin, similar to a few of China's cutting-edge pioneers a specialist, engraved the characters on the entryway of the Da Yu Mausoleum in Shaoxing, Zhejiang territory in 1995, he understood what a profound well of trust and reverence he was drawing from. At the appropriate time, the press blessed Jiang as the new Da Yu, a pioneer who got his position from favored information on water control. Contentious relocation. In spite of the normal impression, the dam was not demolished by an unyielding state. Driving designers communicated reservations all through the discussion, and when Li Peng looked for endorsement for development to start at the National People's Congress of 1992, 33% of the representatives cast a ballot against the arrangement, an incredible degree of contradiction. Protesters, for example, the author Dai King, who was imprisoned in 1989 in the wake of distributing a book of papers censuring the dam conspire, were survivors of the post-Tiananmen Square crackdown, as opposed to dissatisfaction with regards to resistance to the actual dam. Indeed, even pundits need to concede that since the dam was worked, there have been no horrendous floods on the Yangtze like the one that guaranteed 3,500 lives in 1998. Yet, the results of the enormous movement program are more combative. It is most likely a fact that a portion of the overflowed Yangtze towns were dreary, immature spots that a couple of occupants were miserable to leave, and some are content to have been rehoused in new lofts with warming and running water. Others have attempted to adjust to another life maybe many miles from their genealogical homes, where the nearby vernacular is immense to them. Furthermore, there have been protests of insufficient remuneration and theft of resettlement reserves. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Also, make sure to subscribe for more such content.